Okay, hello and welcome everyone. Um, Very happy to have this opportunity to host and to facilitate this community meditation gathering. Um, when we approach meditation, there's a certain kind of natural sensitivity that comes along with it. And I just want to express to everyone that this is a safe space. This is an established community, and I will, and all of the members of our Sangha will do the best that we can to take care of this space and make it an environment where we can really let go and experience our natural mind, our peace mind, our freedom mind. So I'll begin by offering a little bit of a chant to pay homage to Buddha, and then we will offer a little bit of guidance for us in starting the meditation. Then we'll sit in silence together for a little bit, and then we will go into a reading on the topic of mind from the text Clouds and Water by Sung Yin. Mm. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Buddham dhammam sangham saranam gacchami. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. So let's start by finding a comfortable, stable position for our body. Can maybe move our shoulders a little bit, and I tend to sit when doing teaching, facilitation, sit in a computer chair. So it's good if you can move your back and your butt area to the back of the chair so that you're sitting upright, but also that you feel comfortable and supported. And as we find our comfortable and stable meditation position, we can pick up whatever meditation method we may be familiar with, such as awareness of our breathing, or we may have a mantra, or we may be familiar with loving kindness meditation. So it's also helpful if we can bring a few words of loving kindness into our heart, into our body, using the mind. And as we find that that space of comfortableness and also presence. Feeling that natural sensitivity, allowing the body to be the body, allowing the mind to be the mind, just breathing and being with and allowing the turmoil allowing the everything to settle, to calm down. It's not that we're trying to get anywhere or do anything or develop anything, but just allowing and being here and breathing here. Once we start to get through that initial turmoil or excitement of slowing down and settling, the meditation can become very natural and very enjoyable, very effortless. But there's also a lot of good point to feeling that turmoil, that difficulty, and being with it, and offering your kind presence, your kind mindfulness to that suffering body, suffering mind. Let the body know, let the mind know that it is not alone and that you are only bringing love, you are only bringing care, you are only bringing forgiveness and support. When we practice meditation, we experience for ourselves how unstable the mind is, how much movement is there, the coming and going of ideas, and we notice and experience that the body is not satisfying. The mind is not satisfying, not quenching this thirst that we have for peace or for freedom. So we learn through practicing meditation to detach from the mind, to detach from the body, and this is more like our Buddha mind, or just aware, just breathing, just aware, and not sticking to anything, idea or experience, just aware. When we practice meditation like this, it is not only that we arrive at a certain state of being, like a special meditation way of being, but by being in this way, we open ourselves up to understanding perspectives and teachings that are not primarily about self and other, good and bad, right and wrong, not stuck in the notion or the belief of separate self entities, of stories, but actually that this direct experiencing is valuable, is precious. Just being here, just being aware. And in this way, we are more receptive to the Dhamma, less lost in clinging to past and future, this or that. Actually, all the time, our whole life is there with us. But in meditation, we get to experience that. And not only our whole life being there right now, but this capacity inside of ourselves to show up to that life in a very wonderful way. With kindness, with depth, with wholeheartedness, with gentleness, to really process this whole life that is right here and now. So we can begin to come out of our meditation or stay in our meditation. And we'll go through this short reading, short Dhamma teaching, and then we'll open up the space for Q&A and sharing experience. After meditation, it can be nice to take a moment to massage your face, to stretch a little bit, make sure that you're comfortable. And we can really take a deep breath and feel happy that we are in this space and in this moment practicing meditation and listening to the Dhamma. This so many other things that we could be doing and that we do. We're all human, whether we're a monk or a business person or a businesswoman or whatever kind of life that we lead. There's so many things we get involved with, and to be here together in a community, mindfully breathing and attending to our heart and our body and our mind, and to listen to this wonderful Dhamma, it's so great. And I always, I tell people who ask me questions about bringing up a motivation and, they want to exercise or they want to become a meditator or get involved with certain beneficial practices in their life, I always tell them the cheat code, which is that the moment you start doing it, you have become the person who's practicing. You want to be a jogger, you want to be a runner. The moment you step out the door and start moving your legs and your body, you've done it. It's kind of like stepping off a cliff. You're falling immediately, so here we are. So from Sung Yun book, Cloud and Water, and this section is entitled On Mind. And Bodhidharma is the founder of Zen Buddhism. Bodhidharma came from the West without a word, relying completely on cultivation of the mind. Bodhidharma came from the West without a word, relying completely on cultivation of the mind. If we want to write about self and others, our brush would sooner dry out Tung Ting Lake. And I'm sure that's an ancient Chinese famous lake, but we could say the river Ganga, the mother Ganga. Our brush would sooner dry out the mother Ganga, or a great lake. When Bodhidharma first came to India, from India to China, he brought with him no spoken or written word, only the Chan of the mind. This is why we say Bodhidharma came from the West without a word. Relying completely on cultivation of the mind. When Bodhidharma gave transmission, he did not play with words. He only relied on the contemplation of the mind. If we want to harvest the Dharma in our mind, we cannot just talk about it, nor can we simply worship or join our palms. Instead, we have to contemplate and reflect whether we actually have compassion, which is this a sense of an active wish for suffering to end. We experience suffering in ourselves or in another, and we have that active presence, that active attention for that to end, that active affirmation for that suffering to come to an end. So if we want to harvest the Dharma in our mind, we cannot just talk about it, nor can we simply worship or join our palms. Instead, we have to contemplate and reflect whether we actually have compassion, tolerance, wisdom, and the Dharma. So, what that is saying there is that the intellectual theory and the thinking about it and the talking about it, it really doesn't amount to much. It doesn't bring much benefit. But that actually, if we want to harvest the Dharma, if we want to harvest the truth, if we want to harvest enlightenment, to know the Buddha, then we have to contemplate and reflect about our own mind. We have to look at our own mind deeply and consistently and reflect whether we actually have compassion, tolerance, wisdom, and the Dharma. And this is a deep and continuous and extensive examination. It's not that we stop for a moment and say, am I compassionate? Yeah, you're compassionate. Oh, okay, well, let me get back to talking about it. But that we really stop and we reflect and we look. What is our compassion? What is our tolerance? What is our wisdom? What is our Dharma? If we want to write about self and others and are stuck in rhetoric, we are going down the wrong path. Okay? This is really the case, and there are some exceptions in terms of engaged Buddhism, in terms of compassion, in terms of doing good deeds, in terms of working to help others or taking care of practical cases and situations that come up. There's always exceptions. It's not black or white. But in general and specifically, if we want to write about self and others and are stuck in rhetoric, so it's this way and it's that way, and you've got to do this and you've got to do that, and that's wrong and that's right, etc., etc. If we're stuck in that mindset, and if we want to write, if we want to talk, if we want to go on and on at the mouth, at the tongue, about self and others, me, I, mine, these people, these situations, they're like that, I'm like this, I'm dealing with that, they're dealing with this. We are going down the wrong path. Language is only a means of expression. It is simply a bridge. It is neither truth nor Dharma. Now, how do you digest that? How can you accept that with a brain, with a psychology, with a philosophy, with a way of life and a way of being in community that is so stuck, that is so bound and binded by language, by words and phrases? How can you swallow that medicine? This is not an allegory. This is not a flowery teaching, some kind of, hey, think a little bit about this. It's saying it directly. If we want to write about self and others and are stuck in rhetoric, we are going down the wrong path. Language, words and phrases strung together in a convincing way, is only a means of expression. It is simply a bridge. It is neither truth nor dharma. A picture of a cake cannot satisfy our hunger. If you simply understand the meaning of the words without realizing their truth in both your cultivation and behavior, so that is our practice. That's when we come together like this. We gather our energies, we create, or we find ourselves in these good causes and conditions of cultivation to cultivate blessings. So if you simply understand the meaning of the words without realizing their truth, their present moment ultimate validity, in both your cultivation, so coming together at times like this, and also your behavior, so that is your life. That's how you live your life. That's how you deal with your relationship. That's how you deal with a night when you can't sleep. That's how you deal with when you find yourself in a situation where maybe people are acting unskillfully around you and you can't just leave that situation. So your behavior, your way, your conduct. If you simply understand the meaning of the words without realizing their truth in both your cultivation, moment by moment, and behavior, bigger moment by moment, all moments and moments, then you are not a true practitioner of Chan, of Zen. And Zen is the Japanese word for Chan, which is more like where the root of Zen Buddhism comes from. Zen Buddhism originated in China, and it thrived and flourished there for hundreds and thousands of years. Our brush would sooner dry out Tung Ting Lake. Long ago, an emperor set out a proclamation across the land that he would award 12 cows to anyone who can play his instrument for 3 days and 3 nights without rest. On seeing this proclamation, many musicians came to play. One in particular could sing and play exquisitely. In the hope of gaining the prize, he played with all his might. After 3 days and nights, the emperor, however, did not keep his word and failed to reward the musician his prize. The musician was very unhappy and asked the emperor, "Why do you not follow through on your word as you promised?" At this, the sovereign coldly replied. So the sovereign is like the representative, the emperor, the holder of the way that things are going to go. Sometimes I've heard the phrase, the sovereign of truth, becoming a sovereign of truth. So becoming like an authoritative representative of truth by your realization of the path. So the musician was very unhappy when not rewarded his prize and asked the emperor, "Why do you not follow through on your word as you promised?" At this, the sovereign coldly replied, "Out of greed for the cows, your playing was hysterical. You only gave the crowd an empty joy. I have not given you the cows, so I only give empty joy. We owe each other nothing, and neither of us took advantage of the other." In practicing Chan, we must have kindness, compassion, joy, and generosity in our minds so that we can appreciate the real meaning of the Bodhidharma coming from the West. Only then we can enter the ocean of Chan to sail freely. The empty joy of language is only a mirage. It is not the truth nor the ultimate. The empty joy of language is only a mirage. It is not the truth nor the ultimate. And it may seem that with law and contracts and the way that our society is built, that somehow everyone will have to subscribe to language, but that is of course not the reality, and that is what this musician experienced. Why didn't you follow through on your word? And the emperor said, out of greed for the cows, your playing was hysterical, out of control. You only gave the crowd an empty joy. I have not given you the cows, so I only give empty joy. We owe each other nothing, and neither of us took advantage of the other. Okay, so that's our reading for today, and we'll open up the space for people to ask questions that they may have, whatever they may have, and to share if they have an interesting point about the reading that we went through, can also share about that. All right. Okay. One question here on Discord. One Lemon says, question about meditation. Because I get physically tired in my current job, when I try to meditate sitting with the legs crossed after 20 minutes, my legs start to hurt. Is there any problem if I meditate with another station? There is no problem. Lay down, stand up, do a little dance, then your legs might be more comfortable. You can sit down comfortable again. It is true that when we sit with a pain or when we sit with a difficulty, we can practice to endure. So we can practice to sit with and to be with. And we get a lot of blessings from that because, anyway, even if your legs don't hurt, or your body doesn't hurt in a particular way, or your mind doesn't hurt in a particular way, the body and the mind are not going to be ultimately satisfactory. So there's still going to be this sense of suffering, unsatisfactoriness there. So we don't need to put ourselves into pain. There's enough pain already. There's enough suffering already. But when we do feel strong or wholehearted in our practice, we can sit a little bit longer with that pain and we can endure it. But especially we can endure right at the beginning. We don't have to meditate for such a long period of time. We don't have to meditate for 20, 30, 40, 50 minutes, an hour or something like that. Meditation is meant to be this coming home, this refuge for us. That's the right way to do it. So even if you lay down for 5 minutes, or you sit for a minute or two, and you come home to your breathing and you be with and embrace that experience of the body and the mind, as unsatisfactory as they are, it's very refreshing very quickly. And if we try to push ourselves through pain, we make this kind of psychological knot about meditation. And that's very unhelpful. Not even at the beginning, that's always unhelpful. We're here to untangle knots, not to make knots. we will all be quite surprised when we start to listen to the Dhamma talks from Thich Nhat Hanh, from Ajahn Brahm, from the great masters and teachers that are out there, and there are quite a few, there are many. Um, and when we start to prioritize being a good person, living in the right way, being generous, being mindful, living a mindful life, it will be much clearer how resilient you are. It will be much clearer how natural it is to get up from where you've fallen. I mean, that's really the path. I don't know why, but I tend to have, and especially more in the past, I've tend to have this mindset of like, okay, this is the one, straight up trajectory. No more falling down, no more barriers. I'm just going to go straight ahead. And I always fall down. So that falling down and that you have some anxiety, you have some depression, there's a habit energy that you haven't yet worked out. Maybe it's with alcohol, maybe it's with media consumption, maybe it's with some aspect of sexual energy, or not respecting the properties of others, or not respecting the life of others. It goes in with the precepts. But once you start to live a mindful life, you can experience and you can approach everything with mindfulness. You can be more aware of the sensitivity in the mind to all of your actions that you take. And then, even though you fall down, and even though you might bruise your knee, hopefully not break your leg, but life happens. That quality of mindfulness will make these kinds of meetings and these kinds of experience, firstly, more accessible. So you'll be more able to listen to Dharma talks. You'll be more able to join a group meditation, whether it's here or at a meditation center in your area, or connect with people that, usually we have to go to a meditation center or a temple. We're probably not going to find a a great spiritual friend at the bar or at the music festival. Uh, Probably not going to happen. It might, hopefully it does, but we go to the Sangha, we go to the meditation center. So not only will these be more accessible, but when we have the opportunity for these things and we show up to them, it will be deeper, it will be richer, it will uh, grease those gears of resiliency and coming back. And usually when we come back, that's a good sign that we'll be falling down pretty soon, right? But that's okay. And then we continue, and we go in the direction of the Buddha, the Dhamma, and the Sangha. And then we get into more and more of these conditions that are supportive for our long-term practice and our long-term deepening, and hopefully that we become enlightened. Anyone here want to become enlightened? Raise your hand. Abhi's itched his face, so he wants halfway enlightenment. Well, I want to be enlightened, and you know, I had someone talking to me recently, and they said, "You're supposed to be a Buddhist. How can you want to be want to be enlightened or want anything? What's going on here?" We're not enlightened. We're planting seeds of peace in our lives. And like it says here, in practicing Chan or in practicing Buddhism, we must have, and that means we must practice and we must plant seeds of kindness, compassion, joy, and generosity in our minds so that we can appreciate the real meaning of Bodhidharma coming from the West, so that we can appreciate the real meaning of the recognition of our Buddha nature. Recognition of the not someone in the midst of someone. And we can view this more as a compassionate aspiration. And a compassionate aspiration means that it's not that I want something, but it's more that there is a push. It's still a desire, but there's a push to help. There's a push to bring benefit. There's a push to develop for all. So I want to become enlightened, for example, for all. And maybe that is something along the bodhisattva path or the bodhisattva ideal. Not to just want enlightenment for ourselves, but don't be so selfish. Want enlightenment for yourself, for everyone. The more that we develop ourselves, the more peace we can bring, the more skillful we can be in receiving the Dhamma, is the more skillful we will be in sharing the Dhamma and helping people. That's how it works. And then everything in our lives is not just for ourselves, it's for everyone. Go ahead, Francesca. You'd like to share something or say something?
Question. I'm not too sure how clearly you hear me. Is my volume okay? Can you hear? Um, in relation to wanting enlightenment, from what I've heard, uh, is how is that, I guess, in relation to clinging or having a desire or a want? Because in Zen Sangha I sat with, they mentioned that wanting something or anything, and moving that want is kind of like a trap, put it that way, as because it kind of takes you on the wrong path. Because you develop expectations. It's the nature of the mind to develop expectations and come up with all sorts of the mind conditions along the way when you have a condition, something like wanting an enlightenment, right? Do you mind shedding more light on that?
Yeah, it's halfway correct and it's halfway wrong. Because we are human beings. Think about how much you are attached to the things that are around you. Think about how much desire you have in your life for food, for sleep, for water, for everything. You already have so much desires, so many attachments, so many clingings. So the aspiration to become enlightened, and we can say it as the desire to become enlightened, if it's just for ourselves, then yes, that is completely wrong. That's very confused, I think. That's very confused. But if someone's following that up with very sincere practice to develop mindfulness and detachment, well, then how wrong is that? It's not that wrong. But if we bring up this desire to become enlightened for all, this is a limitless path. This is a limitless aspiration. And actually, we do have this or they have that in the Zen tradition with the Bodhisattva vows, right? Creations are numberless. I vow to free them. Delusions are inexhaustible. I vow to transform them or to extinguish them. Transform is maybe more practical. And the rest of it, whatever it may be. So we take these vows or we take these commitments, these aspirations that may be out of reach, but it's we wanted something to pull on our heartstrings so that we invest, so that we get involved, so that we get entangled with the Buddha, the Dhamma, and the Sangha rather than McDonald's or our favorite YouTuber or playing video games or some kind of interpersonal relationship that we feel is going to give us the happiness and the peace that we've been looking for our whole life. We're traveling around the world and, oh, we're meeting all these people, we're having all these experiences, and then you've got nothing to show for it. Hope maybe your mind broadened a little bit, but when you travel around like a tourist, as a tourist like that, your experiences are very, very limited. So it is to recognize how entangled we are, and then to slowly but surely start to move from this big ball of knots and tangles that we're in into this other ball of tangle of knots that we're not really fully into. And that's the Buddha, the Dhamma, and the Sangha, and kind of wiggle our way into that so that this knot, this entanglement, is helpful for us on the path rather than wasted energy. And then when we follow the teachings and the practices in Buddhism, we do develop more detachment and more insight. And, you know, we could get to a point where a very devoted Buddhist would say, well, I'm not a Buddhist, but they probably wouldn't say that unless it was a very specific teaching to a very specific group, because Buddhism is wonderful. And there are so many different ways to utilize it. You know, one of the very special quality about Buddhism is how it can graft itself, how it can ameliorate itself into new cultures, new societies, new mindsets. It's unparalleled in doing that. So allowing Buddhism to do that for ourselves is where I think we can make a lot of progress. We can make a lot of development. And all along the way, when you do listen to Dharma talks, when you do practice meditation, when you do follow the 5 precepts, when you do actions of generosity, where's all that entanglement? The entanglement is just to keep this monkey mind on certain vines and to come back to those certain vines rather than just going off the deep end into, well, it's all kind of vague, you know, I'm just going to live my life for a while. It's not vague, and it's a life and death situation every moment, every day. And that shouldn't scare us, but it should inspire us to really stay involved and keep showing up in whatever way we can. Um, it doesn't have to be about Buddhism or the Buddha, the Dhamma, and the Sangha, but I don't know of any, alternatives to that. Like, for example, even in the very successful secular meditation communities in America, like Jack Kornfield and some of those other specialists, most of them are, got their training out of Buddhism. So it's still, very directly connected towards Buddhism. And if we just say it's, be a good person, do good deeds, be mindful, and then be detached, we're kind of missing out on all the benefits of community and the kind of finding our spiritual roots, our spiritual ancestors that can support us and help us along in this way. And that's how I'm approaching it. As I told someone today, because I was talking with them about, it was a Hindu group, and I was talking with them about, being an American sadhu and kind of like, an American monk. And they were really challenging me about, well, you're a monk, but you desire this and you didn't give up that. And why didn't you just detach when you were living in Seattle and had a car and had a relationship? Why didn't you just detach from that rather than leave that behind? They were all over me. And I told them, I said, I am as imperfect can be. What's so wrong with that? Don't hold yourself to this holier than thou standard. Be your own friend, and try to help yourself on the path, and be in a community that is helping you on the path, whether that's Buddhism or anything else. Okay, any other questions or comments before we wrap up today? we will get a lot more success, deep success, real success, if we exhaust ourselves concerned with the Buddha, the Dhamma, and the Sangha. If we exhaust ourselves in doing good deeds with mindfulness and detachment. We know how to exhaust ourselves in work. We know the kind of success that that gets us, hopefully a little bit of success, but much more so when we exhaust ourselves concerned with doing good deeds with mindfulness and detachment, concerned with the Buddha, the Dhamma, and the Sangha, when we get in over our head, when we drown in involvement and entanglement, that is when we make a real success. Go ahead, Abi. I didn't hear you. Not here. Not your audio is not coming through, Abi. It's not coming through.
Well, either it works now or it doesn't.
Yeah, it's great. I can hear you now.
Okay, there we go. Yeah, it wasn't something too important, but it was just that I just found it interesting that at least the question that was just asked could be partly answered by the reading that we were doing. And the reading, I think, sort of to sum it up, right? Like the Bodhidharma coming without a word is, well, the words are sort of, it's like the Buddha gives you this medicine, right? You can put that medicine on the shelf and you can leave it there forever and it's not going to do anything. But when you take the medicine, that's when something happens. And so in that same way, the sort of detachment, if you can take the medicine of detachment and practice in a particular way, right? If you are too concerned with maybe making certain kinds of merit and not certain others, you can be detached to that. And, it can have a effect. But obviously, if you just got detachment on the shelf there and you're not making any merit because you want to be detached, then, you know, it's, you're not getting all your vitamins. And yeah, I just thought that was interesting how that this is exactly what we were reading about. Thank you for listening.
Sabi, thank you so much. And this is the tough. I mean, this is the tough stuff. This is when we start to get tough and rough. And there's different ways of dealing with that and doing that, because a lot of people want to talk about it. They may be reasonable, they may not be reasonable, but very few people are ready to put their heart where their mouth is, to put their body and mind where their mouth is, to, as we say in America, put their money where their mouth is. And when you are a spiritual teacher or a spiritual community that's trying to function, and it's very normal for people to have that mindset that they've got all these medicines, all these teachings and practices on the shelf around them, but they're not taking any of them. And then they just want to come in and talk about things and kind of front that they are going to get involved, or that they are going to support, or that this is serious for them. It's completely unsustainable to deal with these people. And that's ourselves, right? It's completely unsustainable to try to deal with this writing about self and others, this thinking about it, this talking about it, this intellectualizing about it. Now, there are many cases when, out of the great compassion of some teachers, they take the time, they try to help, they try to walk people through things. But if there's not, so like my teacher, Sayadaw U Thammasara, um, one of the ways that he manages this, from what I've seen, and I don't know if it's just, I can't say this precisely, but he seems to make people wait. And for people who cannot wait, they're not serious about it. They're just there for themselves. They're just there to talk about it. And it's, of course, in a perfect world, we would have a team of guest people, guest masters and teachers and everyone to accommodate every need and talk with people. But, you have to either take the medicine or get out. really. And get out means go about your life and don't waste your time here talking about it or thinking about it. And that's most true internally. So socially, I will try to meet everybody where they are as much as I can. And I think groups should strive for that, to be accommodating and accessible. But internally, you can run around and around and around and around thinking about your depression, thinking about your anxiety. And some of the communities online concerned with spirituality or enlightenment, etc. I mean, it's just unbelievable the mindset that these people have to talk about and think about for themselves all of these complicated spiritual ideas when there is a path. There is a path to walk on, and we need to either walk on that path. I hope that everyone can make the choice to walk on that path. Dana, Sila, Samadhi, Panya. Be generous, be virtuous, be meditative, develop insight, and be wise. And be informed by those who are on that path. And do your best so that you can hold the best accountable and so that we can all get better together. Okay? Maybe that's all for today, about the 1 hour mark, a little bit over. So as we finish, I invite everyone to turn on their cameras and unmute their mics if they're in a good position to do that. And we'll just finish by all of us sharing the merit together.
Interrupt. My camera is telling me it won't turn on for whatever reason, so I don't know how to do that because I'm new to this board.
Well, let's see if there's something here. Okay, we've got it. So everyone should be able to turn on their cameras now and should be able to speak now, I think. You can try again. There's Melissa. All right. Well, we'll do our best. We'll do our best. And next time, me and Abhi will take it from here, okay? May all the merits that we have done till now
we have done till now
be dedicated and shared out towards all beings.
Be dedicated
and be shared out towards all beings.
May all beings rejoice and share in our merits.
May all beings
rejoice and share in our merits.
May it be, may it be, may it truly be.
May it be,
May it be,
Truly be.
Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.
Sadhu.
Okay, wonderful. Yeah, fantastic. So thank you, dear Sangha, so much for being here, and we'll meet together. Well, tomorrow we will be having our special event. So tomorrow, Ayasoma, very famous Buddhist nun and founder of Buddhist Insights from New Jersey, will be coming together with our community, and we'll be having a Zoom meeting where the Venerable Nun will introduce herself and maybe share a little bit about her projects and her work in Italy. And we'll have some opportunities to answer questions, okay? So please, everyone, if you would like to be there, be huddled over your computers from 6:45 onward, and I'll prepare a Zoom link, and at 7 o'clock we'll start on the Zoom. And if you're not already in the Discord, please do join in the Discord if you want to join that Zoom meeting. Okay. Thank you, everyone. Take care. Be happy.
Thank
you. Be gentle.
Welcome back.
Okay. Bye-bye. So, dear Facebook friends and dear YouTubers, please do feel welcome to leave a like. And yes, you can commit to the path as a layperson. And yeah, it's okay. We like wasabi, but we don't like ginger. So we put wasabi on our sushi and we don't put ginger on it. That's okay. And yeah, thank you, everyone. See you later.